Spider-Man 3 turned out to be more of a mess than a motley crew after party. While it isn't the worst movie I have ever seen, it just didn't work at all. Anyway, let's talk about it.
Alrighty then.
Let's start with Venom. I was buzzing my tits off when I found out that Venom was going to be part of this movie. I was so excited, I even shaved my legs before I went to watch it. But oh my word, what a fecking letdown. Arguably one of the best Spider-Man villains out there, Venny was reduced to a mere 7 minutes of screen time. 7 minutes. I've had longer shites. He? She? Them? They? The? Were talked up loads before this movie was released, and then they appear at the end for 7 minutes. Whoever made that decision should be shot with balls of their own shit. Also, Gopher Grace's portrayal of Venom was goofy, silly, and about as scary as a bathtub full of puppies. Going off what I have seen in the comics, Venison looks like an absolute badass. He's sly, cunning, evil, and cool as feck. It's as if Vender was only put in this movie to turn other characters bad. Or just so they could turn Spidey's suit black, and turn Peter Parker emo. We will talk about that piss take in a second.
Oh, Jesus, God, no.
What a massive wet fart of a disappointment, and a real opportunity missed. Venfro could have been a brilliant villain, and possibly even better than Doc Ock and the Green Goblin. But no, they shit the bed, and didn't even have the decency to clean it up afterwards. Next, let's cover Petrie Parker, and the fupping tragic emo phase that he goes through in this movie. That part of the film was so cringe-worthy, it made me want to tear my eyeballs out and replace them with onions. Strolling down the street, clicking his fingers, dancing, prancing, and sliding about, basically making a humongous tit out of himself. His stupid haircut, the leering looks at women he passes. I mean, come on. This was so stupid and laughable, that I nearly choked on popcorn in the cinema. Popcorn ended up shooting out of my nose and hitting the guy in front on the head. Most of this movie's problems can be summed up in these scenes. It's supposed to show the darker side of Pedro Parker. Oh look, he's cool and edgy. He's emo and he just doesn't give a shit. If they had taken this even a tiny bit seriously, it might have worked. Instead, what you get is Tobey Maguire hamming it up like an emo toss pot for 20 minutes. I go back to it, Venedome is supposed to be a badass, not a fecking meme. Maybe they were trying to be funny? Personally, I found it about as funny as a fart in an elevator. It makes me wonder if it was put in the film as part of a dare. Maybe they thought, let's actually do this crap and see if it gets in the movie. Then to put the icing on the shit cake, you have the jazz club scene. Possibly one of the most ridiculous things I have seen in my life. Topped off by this little nugget from Percy Parker.
Now dig on this.
Looking into this recently, I found out that far too many people love this scene. Even though they think it's pure cheese, they actually think it has gotten better with age. Give your head a wobble for feck's sake. There is just too much shit going on in that scene to cover it all in this video. The whole thing was a shit tornado, and it never should have made it anywhere near the movie. Anyway, moving on. Let's talk about how much they tried to cram into one movie. I mean honestly, how many fecking villains do you need? One would have been enough, but oh no, they had 3. Let's see. There was Sandman aka Sandy Sanderson, the Sandcastle maker from Sandcastle Island. There was the Green Gobshite aka I'm Not My Father. Oh, and of course, Vonham Venderson the Blob, aka Ink Boy. Sanderson Man was a fart in the wind kind of a character. He wasn't particularly bad, he wasn't particularly good, in fact he wasn't particularly anything, apart from an excuse for them to use their fancy CGI toys. He's not around that much and doesn't really do much if I'm honest. Turns out he's been nicking things to make money for his sick daughter and ends up having an accident which turns him into Sandal Man. Oh, and spoiler alert. It turns out he's Uncle Ben's actual killer.
What did you say?
This makes no sense to me at all, and kinda feels nice and convenient for the story. If Sandals and Socks was the main villain in this movie, it might have worked out better. I, however, found him to be dull and a right bore, with his grainy face and his beach-like mug. They should have left him out of it altogether. Harry Potter. Sorry, I mean Harry Osborn, plays the Green Goblin 2.0. Here he keeps his run going of being a spoilt, rich, moody twat. But for some reason, he's even worse in this movie. He is like a moody teenager, who hasn't knocked one out for far too long. What I guess I'm trying to say here is, that he's a bit of a fanny. If I had a mate like him, I'd slap him with a wet fish and kick him in the bollocks. He tries to take up the Greek goblin's mantle but he fails miserably. James Franco's performance is an absolute mile away from Willem Dafoe's. He thinks Spider-Man has killed his dad, so yet again he has a hard-on for him for the entire movie. I don't care if he takes this kind of path in the comics, the greasy goblin should have been left out of this movie as well. This is another one that could have been covered in a different movie maybe. I am not saying Harriet Osborn should have been left out of the movie as well, that would have made absolutely no sense, but he should have been there purely as the rich best friend Arse Biscuit, and not as the gross gobbler. He wasn't fit to lace his dad's jockstrap. Again, this idea should have been thrown out of the window when it was suggested. It was a been there, done that, kind of feeling. I have already covered this, but lastly there is Vendom, aka Inky. Such a huge letdown. Could and should have been so much more. In my opinion he should have been the only villain throughout. Instead, we get less than 10 minutes with Ven and he's killed off by vibrations.
You serious?
As I said before, he seems to be one of the most liked, and interesting villains in Spidey's world, so why not just build the film around him? Maybe spend some time with the black Spidey suit, and Pete going off the rails for real, and I am not talking about the emo Happy Days shite that was shown in this movie. I mean him really struggling and fighting with it and then eventually losing that battle. Then, you can have Veen Roller come to the fore, and all hell breaks loose. Van Damme deserved better. There are just too many villains in this movie to focus on one of them properly. Instead, they try and shoehorn them in whenever they can, and it just doesn't work at all. This results in none of them getting enough screen time and I found myself not giving a monkey's fart about any of them. They got far too excited and tried to go too big and it fell as flat as when they announced there was going to be another Captain Marvel movie.
I don't know, does anyone want me to do it again?
What? Don't be so modest.
I don't know, I really don't know.
Next, let's talk about MJ, Mary Jane Watson, aka the bog standard love interest, aka Kirsten Dust Particles. Now, for the record, I don't have anything against Crystal Dune as a person or as an actor. But her character is, let's face it, crap. Not just in Spider-Man 3, but in the first two movies as well. Her character development is a total joke. If you stick Putter and Mary June's storyline side by side, it's pretty damn easy to see who had the better development. While Petey got superpowers, risked his life to make extra cash, lost his uncle, got a freelance job, saved a whole city, and learned that with great power comes great responsibility, Meryl Jane changed boyfriends and got a job, that's pretty much it. And what's worse, the change of boyfriends was only a freaking plot point, designed to throw a spanner in the works in terms of Peter and Harry's friendship. Nothing that she does really matters that much, until it's time for Perto to come and save her from another kidnapping or dangerous situation. I just found her bloody annoying. Sure, most motivations for protagonists lie with the fact that their loved ones are in need of saving, but I mean, how many flipping times does one person need saving? Also, when it comes down to it, she's not really that good a person. She cheats on both Harry and technically Peter with Spider-Man, leaves someone at the altar, and messes Parker and has her around so much, it makes your head spin. Sure, she gets a bit of a rough deal, when Penfold goes all emo and starts acting like he's the mutt's nuts, but what does she do when Henry Osbutt threatens her if she doesn't break up with P-Loads? Just goes on and breaks up with him, instead of at least warning him that Harold is now the new Green Goblin. Okay, I've ragged on this film a fair bit, let's mention some of the things that I actually liked. Spider-Man's black suit is pretty cool. Some of the action was pretty good. Jonah Jameson, played by J.K. Simmons, was great in this. He's given more screen time in this one and he makes the most of it. He is easily the best character. Apart from that, this movie really did suck ass. At the end of the day, when you take a gander at these three movies as a trilogy, Spider-Man 1 was a decent effort. Spider-Man 2 came out of nowhere and blew the pubes off people and was a great movie. And then there was this festering turd of a movie. It was a monkey mess. There was far too much baggage with this movie, far too much going on, and it suffered like a drunken cat dancing on broken glass. It was a massive letdown. It basically snuffed out any chance of there being a Spider-Man 4. Which, I believe, had a script but was never made, as they didn't want to make another shite movie. To be fair to Sam Raimi, it sounds like the studio meddled like feck with this. It's rumored that Raimi never wanted Venom in the movie but was overruled. Also, Sammy is good enough to look back at this and admit it didn't work. He tried, but no dice. I think looking back they just got far too excited with the success of Spider-Man 2, and they tried to outdo it by going as big as possible, and it stunk the place out, like a skunk on skag at a sweaty cow's rave party. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this rant. After all my babbling, this movie did pull in over $900 million worldwide, so I am sure the studio big wigs were creaming themselves at the time. That's me for now, have a good one, and remember, stay safe out there.
Spider-Man! I knew you two were in this together!
Hey, kiddo, let Mom and Dad talk for a minute, will ya?
Sleep!